By the time the men with guns walked into Mercy House, the last bowl of soup was already in Maya Bennett's hands. Steam curled above it in soft, trembling ribbons, carrying the smell of chicken broth, garlic, onions, and everything she had managed to stretch from almost nothing. Outside, Detroit was frozen under a hard January night. Snow pressed against the shelter windows. Wind rattled the old frames like someone trying to get in. Inside, 37 people sat shoulder to shoulder at folding tables, eating quietly beneath flickering fluorescent lights. The soup kitchen had run out of bread 2 hours ago. The coffee had been watered down twice, and Maya had not eaten since morning. But the man in the black coat standing near the entrance looked like he was one breath away from collapsing. He had come in without making a sound. No dramatic entrance. No plea for help. No trembling hands reaching for mercy. Just a tall, broad-shouldered man in a soaked black wool coat, his dark hair wet from the snow, his face shadowed by exhaustion and pain. He stood near the donation bin, as if he did not understand how he had ended up in a place full of plastic trays, old coats, crying children, and people who had been forgotten by the city. His coat was too expensive for Mercy House. His shoes were ruined Italian leather, and there was blood darkening the side of his shirt beneath the coat. Maya noticed all of it. She always noticed the details people tried to hide. The old man at table 3, who smiled even when his hands shook. The young mother pretending not to cry into her soup. The teenage boy hiding bruises under his hoodie. People thought Maya was just the cook because she was soft-bodied, round-faced, and usually covered in flour or broth. They looked at her apron and decided she was background noise. But Maya Bennett had survived long enough to know danger when it entered a room, and danger had just stepped inside wearing a black coat. She carried the final bowl of soup toward him. The man lifted his head. For 1 second, their eyes met. His were not the eyes of a broken man. They were calm, dark, watchful. The kind of eyes that had already counted every door, every window, every person, every possible weapon in the room. Maya stopped 3 feet away from him. "You hungry?" she asked. He did not answer immediately. His gaze dropped to the bowl, then back to her face. "That yours?" he asked, his voice low and rough, as if he had not used it in hours. Maya looked down at the soup. Technically, yes. It was hers. The last bowl. The one she had set aside behind the kitchen for herself after feeding everyone else. "No," she lied. "It's yours." Something passed across his face. Not gratitude, not relief. Something stranger, as if he had forgotten what kindness looked like when it came without a price. He reached for the bowl, but his hand shook once before he controlled it. Maya saw the movement. So did no one else. Before his fingers touched the ceramic, the shelter doors opened again. This time, the wind came in first. Then 3 men. They were not homeless. They were not cold. They were not looking for soup. They wore dark coats, leather gloves, and the kind of stillness that made every conversation in the room die at once. One of them held his right hand too close to his waist. Maya knew what that meant. The wounded stranger's eyes shifted slightly. Not fear. Recognition. The man in the center looked around the room with a smile that did not belong in a shelter. "Evening," he said. "We're re-looking for someone." No one moved. Forks stopped scraping bowls. A child began to whimper. Maya felt the temperature change, even though the door had closed. The man's gaze landed on the stranger behind her. The smile widened. "There you are." The bowl in Maya's hand suddenly felt heavy. Behind her, the wounded man said softly, "Move." It was not a plea. It was an order. Maya did not move. The man in front of her tilted his head. Step aside." Maya looked at his hand near his coat. Then, at the people seated behind him. Families. Old men. Veterans. Mothers. Kids. People with nowhere else to go. No weapons inside Mercy House, she said. The armed man blinked, almost amused. Excuse me. Maya set the bowl of soup down on the nearest table without taking her eyes off him. I said no weapons inside. The room went so still that even the pipes seemed to stop groaning. Behind her, the wounded stranger breathed out once. It almost sounded like disbelief. The man in gloves took a step forward. Maya stepped with him, putting her body directly between him and the man in the black coat. She was aware of everything in that moment. Her cheap sneakers on the cracked tile, her apron stained with soup, her heart beating too fast, her body full and soft and often mocked by people who mistook softness for weakness. The gunman looked her up and down, then smiled. You have no idea who you're protecting. Maya's voice did not shake. Neither do you, apparently. Because if he needed 3 men to drag him out of a soup kitchen, he must be more important than you are. A breath moved through the room, half shock, half terror. The gunman's expression hardened. The wounded stranger behind her spoke again, colder this time. Do not touch her. The words were quiet, but they changed the room. The 3 men looked past Maya. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across their faces. The wounded man straightened slowly, despite the pain. He was taller than Maya had realized, broader, more controlled. His coat hung open now, revealing the blood on his shirt and the dark ink climbing beneath his collar. His face was pale, but his eyes were steady, terrifyingly steady. The man in gloves swallowed. Boss, he said before he could stop himself. The word fell into Mercy House like a glass shattering. Boss. Maya felt the meaning of it before she understood it. The old veteran at table 5 lowered his eyes. The young mother pulled her child closer. Someone whispered a prayer. The wounded man did not look away from the intruders. You came into a shelter, he said with guns. The man in gloves tried to recover. We were ordered to bring you in. By whom? No answer. The wounded man smiled faintly. It was not a warm smile. It was the kind of smile that belonged in rooms where men begged before they disappeared. Wrong answer. One of the other men reached for his weapon. Maya moved before she thought. She grabbed the nearest thing on the table, a metal soup ladle, and slammed it against the side of his wrist. The gun hit the floor. People screamed. The wounded man moved faster than a man bleeding should have been able to move. In one sharp motion, he stepped around Maya, caught the attacker by the throat, and drove him back against the wall hard enough to rattle the framed shelter rules. No one breathed. The 2 remaining men froze. The wounded stranger leaned close to the attacker's ear. You will walk out, he said calmly. You will tell Lorenzo that, if he wants me, he should stop sending boys into places where children eat. Lorenzo. Maya heard the name. She would remember it. The gunman's face turned red under the stranger's grip. The stranger released him. The 3 men backed toward the door, no longer smiling. Before leaving, the man in gloves looked at Maya. This isn't your business. The wounded stranger's voice cut through the room. She became my business when you pointed a gun at her. The door slammed shut behind them. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the shelter erupted. People cried. Chairs scraped. The old heater clanged back to life. Reverend Paul, the shelter director, rushed from his tiny office, pale and shaking, asking what had happened, though he had clearly hidden the moment danger appeared. Maya bent down, picked up the fallen gun with 2 fingers, and placed it into the locked donation safe, because it was the only secure thing in the building. Then she turned. The wounded stranger was watching her. Not like she was foolish, not like she was brave, like she had become a problem he could not solve. Maya pointed toward the kitchen. You bleeding on my floor. His eyebrow moved slightly. That bothers you? Yes, she said. I mopped it myself. For the first time, something almost human touched his mouth. Not a smile, but close enough to be dangerous. Maya led him into the kitchen. The shelter kitchen was small, hot, and held together by stubbornness. One oven door only closed if kicked. The refrigerator hummed like a dying truck. A plastic saint sat near the spice rack, donated by someone who believed desperate places needed small miracles. Maya made the stranger sit on an overturned crate near the pantry. He did not like taking orders. She could tell by the way his jaw tightened. "Take off the coat," she said. He stared at her. She stared back. Finally, he removed it. The black wool was heavy and soaked. Beneath it, his white shirt clung to his torso, torn near his ribs. The wound was ugly, but not as bad as Maya had feared. A graze, maybe. Deep enough to hurt. Not enough to kill him unless infection did the job. Maya grabbed the first aid kit from under the sink. The stranger watched her hands. "You've done this before. I work in a homeless shelter in Detroit," she said. "You think soup is the only thing I patch up?" He said nothing. She cleaned the wound. He did not flinch. That annoyed her more than if he had cursed. "Does pain impress people where you come from?" she asked. "Pain reveals people. That sounds exhausting." "It is." For a second, his honesty surprised her. She pressed gauze against his side. "Name, Adam." Maya looked at his ruined Italian shoes, then at the watch on his wrist, the one he had tried to hide beneath his sleeve, then at the black ink on his hand, a crowned serpent curled between his thumb and wrist. "Try again." His eyes lifted to hers. "Why?" "Because I just stood between you and 3 armed men, and I'd like to know whether I did that for a man named Adam, or a felony with cheekbones." This time, the corner of his mouth did move. Adrian. The name sat between them. Heavy, expensive, dangerous. Maya wrapped the bandage tighter than necessary. "Last name?" "No." "Fine. I'll call you Adam. Adrian. Then give me the rest." "No." She taped the gauze down. "Then we back to Adam." His gaze sharpened. People probably folded when he looked at them that way. Maya did not. She had been screamed at by landlords, threatened by drunk men twice her size, humiliated by rich donors who handed her expired canned goods like they were blessings, and ignored by a city that loved charity galas more than actual charity. A handsome man with blood on his shirt was not enough to scare her into silence. Not completely. He leaned back slightly. "You should not have protected me." "Probably not. You could have been killed. So could everyone in that dining room. You don't know what I am." Maya gathered the bloody towels. "I know what you were 5 minutes ago." "And what was that?" "Hungry." The word hit him harder than she expected. For one long second, the kitchen sounds faded. The old refrigerator, the wind against the windows, the distant murmurs of frightened people in the dining room. Adrian looked at her as if she had reached into his chest and touched something he had buried years ago. Then he looked away. "Your kindness is dangerous." Maya dropped the towels into a bucket. "No, men like you make it dangerous." He stood too quickly, then gripped the edge of the prep table as pain cut through him. Maya moved without thinking, catching his arm. His body went still beneath her hand, not because of pain, because she was touching him. The air changed. Maya felt the strength under his sleeve, the heat of him, the tension locked so tightly in his muscles it felt like he had forgotten how to be held without expecting a knife. He looked down at her hand. She removed it. "Sit down before you pass out and ruin my night more than you already have." He sat, but his eyes stayed on her. "Are you always this disrespectful?" "Only with men who bleed in my kitchen and lie about their last names." A sound came from him, low, almost amused. Then the kitchen door opened. Reverend Paul stepped in, wringing his hands. He was a narrow man, with kind sermons, nervous eyes, and a talent for appearing after danger had passed. "Maya," he whispered, staring at Adrian, "we need to call the police." Adrian's face emptied. Maya noticed. No emotion, no warmth, no fear, just a door closing. "No police," he said. Reverend Paul backed up a step. Maya looked between them. "Why not?" Adrian's eyes met hers. "Because the men who came here tonight may be criminals," he said quietly, "but the men they pay wear badges." Reverend Paul crossed himself. Maya hated that she believed Adrian immediately. Because she had seen enough uniforms, ignore enough suffering to know corruption did not always come wearing black. She turned to Reverend Paul. "No police inside while families are here. Not tonight. Maya, this shelter cannot survive scandal." Maya laughed once, without humor. "This shelter barely survives Tuesday." The Reverend's face tightened. Adrian watched the exchange with the stillness of a predator learning the shape of a new room. Reverend Paul left, whispering about liability. Maya locked the kitchen door behind him. When she turned back, Adrian was standing again. "I need a phone. There's one in the office." "No, of course not," she muttered. "Too normal." He reached for his coat. Maya stepped in front of it. "You are not walking out there with that wound." "I cannot stay." "Because of Lorenzo?" Something flickered in his eyes. There it was, a crack, small, but real. Maya folded her arms. "I listen. That will get you killed. And being quiet saves women like me." His face changed, not softer, more focused. As if that sentence had told him more about her life than she had meant to reveal. "You should forget that name," he said. "I should do a lot of things." "Maya." She froze. She had not told him her name. Her heart kicked hard. "How do you know my name?" His gaze shifted to the paper schedule taped near the pantry, where her name was written beside the dinner shift. "Maya Bennett," he said, reading it aloud. "Cook, Monday through Saturday. Double shift on Thursdays." She hated the way her name sounded in his voice, like a secret he had no right to hold. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Make my name sound like evidence." His expression changed again, and this time something close to regret passed through his eyes. "I apologize." Maya almost laughed. He sounded like he had not apologized in years and had to pull the words from a locked drawer. "Accepted," she said carefully. "Now sit." He did, and for the next hour, while snow buried the city and frightened families slowly returned to their soup, Maya Bennett cleaned blood from the ribs of a man who would later be described on every Detroit news station as missing, presumed dead, and more dangerous than anyone inside Mercy House could possibly imagine. She found out at dawn. The shelter had quieted into restless sleep. People lay on cots beneath donated blankets. The kitchen smelled of bleach and onions. Maya stood by the old counter, drinking burnt coffee from a chipped mug, when the small television above the refrigerator flickered from a weather alert to breaking news. A woman in a red coat stood outside a gated mansion. Sources continue to report that Detroit crime figure Adrian Moretti remains missing after an alleged attack on his private convoy late last night. Maya's mug stopped halfway to her mouth. A photograph filled the screen. The man from her kitchen, clean-shaven, immaculate black suit, cold eyes, powerful posture, surrounded by men in suits and microphones. Adrian Moretti, head of the Moretti Organization, a controversial figure linked to multiple federal investigations, real estate holdings, and private security networks across the city. Maya slowly turned. Adrian stood in the kitchen doorway, wearing the same bloody shirt beneath a borrowed shelter hoodie that did nothing to disguise what he was. A mafia boss, in donated clothes. The absurdity would have been funny if Maya's stomach were not dropping through the floor. "You lied," she said. "I gave you my first name. You left out the part where the whole city thinks you re-dead." His gaze moved to the television. On screen, a handsome man with silver at his temples stepped to a microphone. He looked grief-stricken in the polished way rich men learned for cameras. Lorenzo Moretti. Adrian's eyes turned black. "My cousin," he said. On the television, Lorenzo lowered his head. "My family is devastated by Adrian's disappearance. Until we know more, I will assume temporary leadership of our business interests to protect what he built." Maya heard it then. Not grief, opportunity. Adrian's jaw tightened. He moved faster than I expected. Maya set down the mug. "You need to leave." His gaze returned to her. "You're afraid." "Yes." "Good." That answer made anger flare through her fear. "No, you do not get to approve my fear like you own it. Armed men came into my shelter because of you. Children were eating 10 feet away from a gun because of you." "I know. Do you?" His voice dropped. "Yes." The quietness of it slowed her down. He looked toward the dining room, where the guests slept under thin blankets. His face did not soften, exactly, but something in him seemed to move under the surface. "I did not come here to endanger them," he said. "I came because I had nowhere else to go." Maya stared at him. The most feared man in Detroit had said it with no drama. No self-pity, just a fact. Nowhere else to go. For one dangerous second, he was not a headline, not a crime boss, not a man whose name made armed men tremble. He was the stranger she had found bleeding by the donation bin, hungry, alone. Maya hated him a little for making her remember that. "Why here?" she asked. Adrian looked past her to the cracked tile floor. "Because Mercy House used to belong to someone loyal to me." "Used to?" "He died." "Convenient." His eyes cut back to hers. "I do not kill loyal men. No, just disloyal ones." Silence. That was answer enough. Maya wrapped both hands around her coffee mug because they were suddenly cold. Adrian stepped closer, slowly enough not to scare her. "Lorenzo will come back," he said. "Not just for me." "What does that mean?" "It means you embarrassed his men. It means you saw my face. It means you heard his name." I didn't ask for any of that. No. For the first time since she had met him, Adrian looked almost angry at himself. "You didn't." The kitchen door opened before Maya could answer. A little girl stood there, in oversized pink boots, clutching a stuffed rabbit to her chest. Sophie, 6 years old, big, brown eyes. Daughter of a woman who had arrived at Mercy House 2 weeks ago and disappeared 3 days later, leaving the child with a note that said, "Please keep her safe." Maya's chest tightened. "Sophie, honey, why are you awake?" The girl looked at Adrian, then at the television. Then she whispered, "That's the man from Mommy's papers." Adrian went still. Maya knelt immediately. "What papers?" Sophie hugged the rabbit tighter. "The ones she hid?" Adrian's gaze sharpened. "Maya," he said quietly, "bring her here." The command in his voice made Maya stand. "No." His eyes flicked to her. "This child may be in danger. Then stop looking at her like she's evidence." The words landed hard. Adrian's face changed. Something flickered there. Annoyance first, then restraint, then a strange, reluctant respect. He lowered himself slowly to one knee, so he was not towering over Sophie. Maya watched him carefully. He kept his hands visible. His voice, when he spoke, was nothing like the voice he had used with the armed men. "Your mother knew me?" Sophie nodded. "She said if the bad men came, I should find the Black Lion." Adrian's face lost color. Maya looked at him. "What is the Black Lion?" Adrian pulled back the collar of his borrowed hoodie. On the left side of his chest, half hidden by the neckline, was a tattoo, a black lion wearing a crown. Sophie lifted the stuffed rabbit. "Mama said the key belongs to him." Maya felt the world tilt. Adrian reached slowly toward the rabbit, then stopped before touching it. He looked at Maya, asking permission. That startled her more than anything else he had done. Maya took the rabbit from Sophie and carefully opened the loose seam near its back. Inside was a small brass key wrapped in plastic and a folded photograph. Adrian took the photo. The moment he saw it, all warmth left the room. Maya saw 3 people in the picture. A woman she recognized as Sophie's mother, a man standing beside her, and Lorenzo Moretti, smiling with one hand on the woman's shoulder. On the back, written in hurried pen, were 4 words: Mercy House, basement wall. Adrian closed his fist around the photograph. Now Maya understood. The shelter had not been random. Nothing about this night had been random. Mercy House was sitting on something powerful enough to make a mafia boss bleed through a snowstorm and his own cousin send armed men into a room full of hungry people. Maya looked at Sophie, then at the sleeping families, then at Adrian. What's in my basement? Adrian's voice was very quiet. The proof that my cousin murdered everyone who could stop him. By noon, Mercy House was under siege without a single gun visible. City inspectors arrived with clipboards. A health department officer claimed anonymous complaints had been filed. A fire marshal pointed at old wiring everyone already knew was old. A black SUV sat across the street for 3 hours without moving. By 2 o'clock, a luxury catering truck pulled up and unloaded enough food to feed the entire shelter for a month. Maya stood in the loading area, staring at crates of fresh vegetables, meat, coffee, blankets, medical supplies, and winter coats. The driver handed her a receipt with no sender name. She did not need one. Adrian stood at the end of the alley in the borrowed hoodie, looking like a king, pretending to be poor and failing at it. Maya marched toward him. Did you do this? Yes. I didn't ask you to buy my shelter. I didn't buy it. You sent enough food to make everyone here ask questions. People were hungry. That didn't bother you before last night. His expression did not change, but his eyes did. You think I don't know what my city looks like? I think powerful men know exactly what suffering looks like. They just learn how to step over it without getting their shoes dirty. The words hit something. She saw it. A small tightening around his mouth. A dangerous silence. One of his men would have apologized, or backed away, or disappeared. Maya did none of those things. Adrian stepped closer. Snow drifted between them. You are angry that I helped. I am angry that you think help and control are the same thing. His gaze held hers. I know the difference. Do you? No, he said after a pause. Not always. That honesty stole some of her anger, and she hated that too. He looked toward the shelter door where Sophie stood watching them from behind the glass. Lorenzo will use the city to shut this place down before nightfall, he said. Then he will search it. Maya's stomach twisted. Then we find whatever is in the basement first. No. You and the child leave. I find it. This is my shelter. This is my war. Maya stepped closer this time. You brought your war into my kitchen. His eyes dropped briefly to her mouth, then back to her eyes. The air tightened. For 1 second, the alley disappeared. The snow, the crates, the black SUV. There was only the space between them, too small and too charged. And the fact that he looked like he wanted to touch her but would rather cut off his own hand than admit it. He reached toward her, stopped before his fingers, brushed her sleeve, then lowered his hand. Do not confuse bravery with invincibility, he said. Maya's voice softened without permission. And do not confuse being feared with being alone. The words broke something open in his face, just for a second. Then he turned away. Basement. Now. The basement of Mercy House smelled like damp concrete, old pipes, and forgotten prayers. The building had once been a church, decades before it became a shelter. Beneath the kitchen, old brick walls formed narrow corridors where donated mattresses, broken chairs, and holiday decorations were stored under bare bulbs. Maya carried a flashlight. Adrian walked beside her with a gun in his hand. She tried not to stare at it. She failed. He noticed. "I won't use it unless I have to. That's supposed to comfort me?" "No. At least you were honest about that." They reached the oldest wall, where plaster had cracked beneath a rusted cross. Maya had walked past it 100 times. She had stored canned beans under it, stacked folding chairs beside it. Never once had she imagined a dead woman's secret was hidden inside. Adrian ran his hand along the bricks. "Give me the key." Maya hesitated. He looked at her. Maya. The way he said her name now was different. Less like evidence, more like restraint. She handed him the key. He pressed it into a nearly invisible hole behind a loose stone. Something clicked. Part of the wall opened. Maya forgot to breathe. Inside was a metal box. Adrian removed it carefully and opened the lid. There were ledgers, flash drives, photographs, bank documents, property deeds, police payoff records, and one sealed envelope addressed to Adrian Moretti. He stared at it. His hand did not shake, but Maya knew the difference now between stillness and calm. This was not calm. This was a man holding the ghost of a betrayal. "Who hid this?" she asked. "Elena Vale, Sophie's mother, my accountant." Maya's chest tightened. "The woman who left Sophie here." Adrian nodded. "She found out Lorenzo was using my companies to move money through city contracts, shelters, clinics, churches, places. No one would question, because the paperwork looked charitable." Maya looked at the files in horror. "Mercy House?" "Yes." "So my shelter was part of your money?" "My cousin S. But under your name." His silence was answer enough. Maya stepped back. The basement suddenly felt smaller. All those years of begging for grants, repairing broken ovens with duct tape, praying the lights stayed on while men in suits used places like Mercy House as cover for crimes. "You people poison everything," she whispered. Adrian flinched. Not visibly, but she saw it. "I didn't know." "You expect me to believe that?" "No," he said. "I expect you to hate me for it." She stared at him. "I don't even know what I feel." Above them, something slammed. Adrian turned instantly. Another sound. A scream. Maya's blood went cold. "Sophie." Adrian grabbed the box with one hand and Maya's wrist with the other. His grip was firm but not painful. "Stay behind me." For once, Maya did not argue. They ran upstairs into chaos. The dining room had emptied into panic. Shelter guests were being pushed toward the walls by men in fake city uniforms. Reverend Paul stood near the office, pale and sweating, while Lorenzo Moretti walked through the center of Mercy House as if he owned the air. He was elegant in a gray overcoat, handsome in a polished way, with Adrian's dark eyes but none of his weight. In his hand, he held Sophie's stuffed rabbit. Maya felt Adrian's body go deadly still beside her. Lorenzo smiled. "Cousin," he said, "you look terrible." Adrian stepped forward. Maya could feel the violence in him. Not loud, not reckless. Contained. That made it worse. "Let the child go," Adrian said. Lorenzo lifted one brow. "Always giving orders. Even when you re-hiding in a soup kitchen." His gaze moved to Maya, and stayed there. "So this is her." Adrian's voice lowered. "Do not look at her." Lorenzo's smile widened. Maya hated him instantly. He looked at her body first, her apron, her curves, her face, the kind of slow, insulting inspection she had endured from men who thought women like her existed to be dismissed. Then he said, "You risked a great deal for a man who would have stepped over you 2 days ago." The words were meant to hurt. Maya looked at Adrian. He did not deny it. That hurt more. Lorenzo saw it and smiled. "Ah, there it is." Adrian took one step. Lorenzo's men raised their guns. Children cried. Maya moved in front of Adrian before she realized she had done it. Adrian's hand caught her waist from behind and pulled her back against him, shielding her with his body. It was the first time he had touched her like that. Not because he was weak, not because she was helping him stand, because he wanted her out of the line of fire. His voice brushed her ear. "Do not make yourself a target for me," Maya whispered back. "Stop giving them reasons to shoot." Lorenzo laughed softly. How touching. Adrian's hand tightened once at her waist before he released her. "Leave," Adrian said. "Now, or this city will bury you before dawn." Lorenzo's smile faded. "You don't have a city anymore. You have a bleeding wound, a stolen box, and a cook who thinks feeding you makes you human." The room went silent. Adrian's face did not change, but Maya felt the sentence enter him. Lorenzo stepped closer. "Give me the ledgers. Give me the key. Give me the girl. And I let Mercy House stay open another month." Maya felt sick. There it was. The price, the shelter, the people, Sophie, Adrian, all of it turned into leverage. Reverend Paul began to cry. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Maya looked at him. Her heart dropped. "What did you do?" The Reverend covered his face. "They said they would close us. They said everyone would be on the street. I only told them about the basement. I didn't know about the child." Maya felt betrayal like a physical blow. This place had survived on trust because it had nothing else, and even that had been sold. Lorenzo sighed. Sentiment makes poor people so dramatic. Adrian moved so fast, Maya barely saw it. 1 second he was beside her. The next, he had Lorenzo by the throat and a gun pressed beneath his jaw. Every weapon in the room lifted. Maya's breath stopped. Adrian's voice was ice. "You can insult me. You can betray me. You can steal from me. But if you speak about her like that again, I will forget we share blood." Lorenzo's face reddened, but his eyes glittered. "There he is," he choked. "The monster in love with a woman who fed him soup." Maya's heart slammed against her ribs. Love. The word was too large, too dangerous, too soon. Adrian did not look at her. That was how she knew Lorenzo had hit something real. A siren sounded outside. Then another. Lorenzo's men began to shift. Police lights flashed through the windows. Lorenzo smiled against the gun. "You should have stayed dead." Then he whispered something Maya could not hear. Adrian's face changed. He released Lorenzo half a second too late. Smoke exploded through the front windows. The shelter dissolved into screams. Adrian grabbed Maya. The world became white smoke, flashing lights, bodies moving, children crying, men shouting. Maya coughed, blind and terrified. Adrian's arm locked around her, hard and protective. "This way, Sophie," Maya screamed. "I have her," a deep voice answered. A man in black appeared through the smoke carrying Sophie, who clutched her rabbit and sobbed. More men entered, not Lorenzo's, Adrian's. The room shifted again. Power, answering power. Adrian pushed Maya toward the back exit. "No," she said, coughing. "The residents. My men have them. You don't know that." He turned on her, eyes burning. "I know every man I send into a room with your people. Your people." The words struck her. He meant them. Maya let him pull her through the back kitchen and into the alley. Snow hit her face. Black SUVs waited with doors open, engines growling. Adrian pushed Sophie and Maya into the same vehicle and climbed in after them. The door slammed. The SUV launched into the night. Through the rear window, Maya watched Mercy House disappear behind smoke, sirens, and men with guns. The last thing she saw was Lorenzo standing across the street beneath a flickering street lamp, smiling. Adrian did not take Maya to a mansion at first. He took her underground. The safe house was beneath an old theater on the edge of downtown, hidden behind a locked stage door and a hallway lined with faded posters from plays no one performed anymore. Beneath the stage, steel doors opened into a place that looked nothing like the shelter. Warm lights, polished concrete, medical supplies, security monitors, a kitchen larger than the entire Mercy House dining room. Sophie fell asleep within minutes, wrapped in a blanket on a leather couch, exhausted from crying. Maya stood in the center of the room, arms wrapped around herself. She still smelled smoke in her hair. Adrian spoke quietly with his men near the monitors, his face returned to stone. Names, routes, police scanners, hospital contacts, news stations. Power moved around him like weather. No one questioned him. No one interrupted. When he finished, the men vanished through doors Maya had not noticed. Then, it was only the two of them, and the sleeping child. Adrian turned toward Maya. "You're safe here." Maya laughed, and it came out broken. "Do you hear yourself?" His jaw tightened. "Yes. Safe? I was safe before you came into my shelter." "No," he said. "You were vulnerable. You just didn't know who had already marked the building." She stared at him. "What does that mean?" He walked to the monitor wall and touched a screen. Images appeared. Mercy House exterior, the alley, the dining room, the kitchen. Maya's blood turned cold. Hidden cameras. Inside the shelter. Her kitchen, her life. She stepped back. No. Adrian's eyes darkened. "I found the signal when we entered the basement." "How long?" "I don't know yet." Maya felt exposed in a way that made her skin crawl. All those nights, all those meals, all those children sleeping, all those private moments of human desperation watched by men who saw suffering as strategy. She covered her mouth. Adrian moved toward her. She stepped away. He stopped immediately. Good. At least he knew better than to touch her then. "You said you didn't know," she whispered. "I didn't. But your world did." "Yes. And now, I'm supposed to trust you to protect me from the poison you were too powerful to notice." His face hardened, but his eyes did not. "No. You are supposed to survive first. Hate me after." The sentence should not have hurt. It did, because part of her had wanted him to say something else, something softer, something impossible. Maya turned away. "I need to see Sophie. She's sleeping. I need to see her anyway." She sat beside the little girl and brushed hair from her face with shaking fingers. Adrian remained across the room, giving her space. Hours passed. News broke. Mercy House was on every channel. Shelter linked to Moretti crime family investigation. Unknown cook seen fleeing with missing mafia figure. Child witness possibly involved. Maya Bennett's name appeared on screen. A photo from an old shelter fundraiser flashed beside Adrian's mugshot. Maya stared at herself. Round face. Tired smile. Apron. Hair pulled back. She looked ordinary. That somehow made the headline worse. Adrian turned off the television. Maya did not look at him. "My life is over." "No. You don't get to say no. I will fix it. With money, with blood, if necessary." She looked at him then. There he was. The monster. The protector. The man who had eaten her soup like it was sacred and threatened his own cousin for insulting her. The contradiction of him made her feel unsteady. "I don't want blood," she said. "I know. Do you?" He crossed the room slowly and knelt in front of her. The sight of Adrian Moretti kneeling did something strange to the air. He did not touch her. He only lowered himself until his eyes were level with hers. "I know you want the shelter back. I know you want the child safe. I know you want the people who slept under that roof to have somewhere warm tomorrow. I know you want to believe kindness can exist without becoming leverage." Maya swallowed. His voice lowered. I do not know how to be that kind of man, but I know how to destroy the men who made kindness dangerous. Silence stretched between them. Maya should have been repulsed. Part of her was. Another part, the exhausted, furious, frightened part, wanted to lean into the certainty of him and rest for 1 second. That scared her more than the guns. Why do you care? She whispered. His eyes moved over her face, slowly, carefully, as if the answer was standing in front of him, and he resented it. Because, when I had nothing, he said, you gave me what was yours. Maya's breath caught. That was soup. No, Adrian said. It was proof. Proof of what? His gaze dropped briefly to her hands, then returned to her eyes. That I was still human enough to want to deserve it. The confession entered the room quietly. No music, no dramatic touch. Just a wounded man on his knees in an underground safe house, admitting that one act of kindness had reached a place no bullet ever had. Maya's eyes burned. She looked away first, because if she didn't, she might forgive him too soon, and men like Adrian Moretti were too dangerous to forgive quickly. The next morning, Maya became Adrian's fake fiancé, not by choice at first, by scandal. Lorenzo leaked photographs of them leaving Mercy House together through the smoke. In one, Adrian's arm was locked around Maya's waist as he shielded her from the chaos. In another, Maya was climbing into his SUV with Sophie in her arms. The headline wrote itself. Mafia Boss returns from dead with mystery woman. By noon, commentators were calling her his lover. By 3, Lorenzo's people had painted her as a criminal accomplice. By 5, Mercy House donors had frozen all support. Maya stood in the safe house kitchen, gripping the edge of the counter so hard her fingers hurt. Adrian watched the news in silence. Then he turned to his lawyer. Release the statement. Maya looked up. What statement? His lawyer, a silver-haired woman named Camille, hesitated. Adrian did not. Miss Bennett is under my personal protection, he said. Any accusation against her will be answered directly by me. That makes me sound guilty. It makes you untouchable. I don't want to be untouchable. I want to be innocent. In my world, innocence does not protect you. Maya stared at him. There it was again. That cold truth. He was not trying to comfort her. He was trying to keep her alive. Camille cleared her throat. There is another option. Public appearance. Charity gala tonight. Lorenzo will be there, along with the city officials tied to the Mercy House contracts. If Mr. Moretti arrives alive, with Miss Bennett beside him, it changes the story. Maya laughed in disbelief. Beside him as what? Silence. Adrian's eyes met hers. Maya understood before anyone said it. No, Maya, no. I am not playing mafia girlfriend in front of cameras. Fiancé, Camille said carefully. Maya turned to her. Absolutely not. Adrian's voice was calm. It would force them to treat you as part of my household. I am not part of your household. No. His eyes held hers. But I can make them fear harming you. The room went quiet. Maya looked at Sophie sleeping in the next room. Then at Mercy House on the news. Doors sealed with city notices, people standing outside in the cold. Her people. On the street because of this war. What happens if I do it? Adrian's gaze sharpened. Lorenzo approaches. He cannot resist humiliating what he thinks I care about. What you think you care about. The words came out before she could stop them. Adrian went still. Camille suddenly found something fascinating in her papers. Maya's face heated, but she refused to look away. Adrian stepped closer. I know what I care about. Her heart betrayed her by beating harder. Do you? His eyes dropped to her mouth again. This time, he did not look away quickly. No, he said softly. That is the problem. The gala was held inside a restored train station turned luxury event hall, All marble floors, golden lights, champagne towers, and men who smiled like knives. Maya did not recognize herself in the mirror. Camille had brought a deep emerald dress that fit her body instead of punishing it. The fabric followed her curves, soft over her hips, elegant at her waist, exposing her shoulders just enough to make her feel both powerful and vulnerable. Maya had spent years wearing clothes meant to hide her. This dress did not hide anything. When she stepped into the hall where Adrian waited, every man in the room turned. But Adrian did not look at her the way they did. He looked at her like the room had disappeared. His black suit was perfect. His hair was brushed back. The wound beneath his ribs was hidden. Adrian Moretti, returned from the dead, looked every inch the kind of man cities either feared or obeyed. But his eyes gave him away. Only for her. "You look." He stopped. Maya lifted an eyebrow, trying to protect herself with attitude, because his stare was making her knees unreliable. "Careful, Moretti. Say something insulting and I'll go back upstairs." His mouth almost curved. "You look like every man in that room should be warned." She hated that she liked it. He offered his arm. Maya looked at it, then at him. "This doesn't mean I trust you." "I know. It doesn't mean I belong to you." His jaw tightened. "No," he said. "It means anyone who tries to hurt you answers to me." "That sounds a lot like belonging." His voice dropped. "Not unless you choose it." Maya looked at him then. Really looked. The restraint cost him something. She could see it. Adrian was a man built by possession, territory, control. But with her, he kept stopping himself at the edge of want. That made him more dangerous, because it made her wonder what he would be like if he ever stopped holding back. She took his arm. The hall went silent when they entered. Cameras flashed. Whispers spread. There he was, the dead man walking, and beside him, the shelter cook the city had turned into a scandal. Maya felt every stare, some curious, some cruel, some shocked that a woman with her body, her background, her apron-calloused hands could stand beside Adrian Moretti, like she had a right to be there. Adrian leaned slightly toward her. "Breathe. I am. You are planning to stab someone with a shrimp fork, only if they deserve it. Then take the silver one. It's sharper." A laugh almost escaped her. She stopped it just in time. Across the room, Lorenzo watched them with a glass of champagne in his hand. Beside him stood Valentina Rossi, daughter of a rival family, beautiful in white satin and diamonds. Her smile cooled when she saw Maya on Adrian's arm. Jealousy was not the right word for what Maya felt. She had no claim, no right, no reason to care. Still, when Valentina approached and placed a familiar hand on Adrian's sleeve, Maya's chest tightened. "Adrian," Valentina purred. "Alive after all. You should have called." Adrian gently removed her hand. "I was busy." Her gaze slid to Maya. "And this is the shelter girl." Maya smiled. "And you're the woman who thinks that was an insult." Valentina's expression flickered. Adrian's hand settled at the small of Maya's back. Warm, steady, possessive enough that everyone noticed. Restrained enough that Maya could have stepped away if she wanted to. She did not. Lorenzo approached slowly, clapping once. "Beautiful," he said. "The king returns with a queen from a soup kitchen." Adrian's body hardened beside her. Maya touched his wrist lightly, not to calm him, to remind him she was still standing. Lorenzo noticed. His smile sharpened. "You must be very proud, Maya. One bowl of soup and now you re-wearing emeralds." Maya looked him straight in the eye. "I'm proud I've never had to betray family to feel important." The room went silent. Adrian turned his head toward her. Lorenzo's smile died. For one glorious second, Maya saw the wound land. Then Lorenzo recovered. "Careful," he said softly. "Women who stand too close to Adrian tend to disappear." Adrian moved. Maya caught his hand. Not because Lorenzo did not deserve whatever was coming, but because cameras surrounded them, and she suddenly understood the game. Lorenzo wanted Adrian violent in public, wanted proof he was unstable, a criminal, a monster. Maya stepped forward instead. "If I disappear," she said, voice clear enough for nearby reporters to hear, "everyone will know exactly whose name I said first." Lorenzo stared at her. So did Adrian. The flash of cameras intensified. Maya had changed the headline. She could feel it. Not victim. Witness. Lorenzo leaned close, voice low enough only she and Adrian could hear. "You think he'll save you?" "Adrian protects what belongs to him until it costs too much. Then he lets it burn." Maya's heart twisted. Adrian's face went pale with fury. Not because it was a lie, because somewhere in his past it had been true. Lorenzo walked away smiling. The rest of the night became a blur of cameras, champagne, threats disguised as compliments, and Adrian's hand hovering near Maya's back like a vow he refused to speak aloud. Near midnight, they slipped onto a balcony above the frozen city. Detroit glittered beneath them, hard and beautiful, all black river water and distant lights. Maya gripped the railing. "You let things burn before." Adrian stood beside her. He did not pretend not to understand. "Yes." The answer hurt. "People?" He looked out at the city. "I built an empire the way I was taught. Loyalty, fear, punishment, distance. If something became weakness, I cut it away before someone used it." Maya swallowed. "And now," his gaze turned to her, "now, I cannot cut you away." The words were quiet, but they felt louder than the entire gala. Maya's breath caught. "Adrian, I know. No, you don't. You don't know me. You know one night, one bowl of soup, one woman who was stupid enough to stand between you and guns." His eyes darkened. "Do not call yourself stupid. Then don't turn me into a fantasy. I am not. You are. Because I was kind to you when you were bleeding. That doesn't make me salvation." "No," he said. "It makes you dangerous." Maya looked away. Behind them, music drifted through the glass. Soft, expensive, lonely. Adrian moved closer, not touching, never taking what she had not offered. "I do know you," he said. "I know you give away your food and lie about being hungry. I know you count every child before you count yourself. I know you hate owing anyone because people have made generosity into a leash. I know you are terrified and still standing. I know you looked at the worst thing in me and did not flatter it." Her eyes burned. "That's not love." "No," he said. "Not yet. Yet." The word trembled between them. A warning, a promise, a cliff edge. Before Maya could answer, Adrian's phone buzzed. He looked at it. Everything in his face changed. Sophie was gone. The safe house had been breached. For the first time since Maya had met him, Adrian Moretti looked afraid. Not for himself, for a child, for what Maya would feel when she found out. The ride to the East Side warehouse district was silent, except for Adrian giving orders into the phone. Maya sat beside him in the back of the SUV, still wearing the emerald dress, her hands clenched in her lap. She did not cry. She did not scream. That would come later if Sophie was hurt. For now, all she had was focus. Adrian ended the call and looked at her. "I will get her back. You said your safe house was safe." His jaw tightened. "Yes. Was that another thing you believed because powerful men told you it was true?" The words were cruel. She knew it. He accepted them like he deserved worse. Yes, that almost broke her. She turned to the window. Snow streaked across the glass. "Lorenzo wants the ledgers," she said. "Yes. And the child." "Yes. And you." Adrian was quiet. Then, "He wants me to choose." Maya looked at him. Between what? The evidence that can destroy him, or you and Sophie? Her stomach dropped. The SUV sped through an industrial street lit by orange lamps. Ahead, an old warehouse waited near the river, windows broken, roofline jagged against the night. Adrian reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. Maya stared at it. Are you serious? He opened it. Inside was not a ring. It was a flash drive. The ledgers are copied here, he said. If I go in and don't come out, give this to Camille. Maya stared at the drive, then at him. No, Maya, no. You don't get to hand me your almost confession, your evidence, and your martyrdom in one dramatic little box. His eyes flashed. This is not the time. This is exactly the time, because men like you love sacrifice when it lets you avoid living with consequences. The driver went very still. Adrian leaned closer, voice low. Lorenzo will kill you to hurt me. Then don't let him. His face changed. So did hers. The words had sounded like trust. Maybe they were. Adrian looked at her for a long second. Then he touched her face. Barely. Just his knuckles against her cheek, as if anything more would break the restraint holding him together. I want, he said. The warehouse smelled of river water, rust, and old oil. Lorenzo had staged it like theater. Sophie sat on a chair near the center, wrists tied loosely, crying but unharmed. Maya nearly ran to her, but Adrian caught her hand. Across from them, Lorenzo stood beneath a hanging light with 20 armed men, and Reverend Paul beside him, bruised and shaking. Maya's heart twisted despite herself. The Reverend looked broken. I'm sorry, he whispered. They followed us. I thought if I helped them, they'd leave the shelter alone. Lorenzo sighed. Everyone thinks betrayal sounds better, with a noble reason. Adrian stepped forward. I'm here. Lorenzo smiled. So you are. Let the girl go. The child, the cook, the ledgers. Lorenzo held out his hand. All of it ends tonight. Maya felt Adrian's fingers flex around hers once before he released her. He walked forward alone. Every step was controlled. Deadly. You could have had money, Adrian said. Territory. Power. I gave you all of it. Lorenzo's face twisted. You gave me scraps from a table I helped build. You helped bury bodies and sign papers. I helped make you king. Adrian stopped 10 feet away. And you thought that meant you deserved the crown? Lorenzo's eyes burned. No. I thought it meant I deserved to stop kneeling. He looked at Maya. You understand that, don't you? A woman like you. Always serving. Always feeding. Always watching the powerful take everything and call it destiny. Maya hated that he knew which wound to press. Adrian's head turned slightly. Maya, a warning. Not to listen. Lorenzo smiled. He'll use you. He'll worship you for a season because you made him feel human. Then he'll remember what he is. Maya looked at Adrian. His face was unreadable. That scared her. Lorenzo continued, softer now. Ask him what happened to the last woman who made him hesitate. The warehouse went silent. Maya's pulse thudded. Adrian closed his eyes briefly. There it was, the hidden truth. Lorenzo had saved it for this moment. Adrian spoke without looking away from Maya. Her name was Lucia. Maya's chest tightened. My former fiancée, he said. Political arrangement. No love. But she tried to leave the alliance, and I did not protect her fast enough. Lorenzo laughed. You protected the deal. Adrian's face hardened. Yes. The admission landed like a blade. Maya took one step back. Adrian saw it. Pain moved through his eyes, fast and raw. I was wrong, he said. Lorenzo clapped slowly. How touching. Maya felt everything inside her pulling apart. Adrian had let someone burn. Lorenzo had not lied, and yet the man standing in front of her looked haunted by it in a way monsters did not allow themselves to be haunted. Maya looked at Sophie, at the child crying under the light, at Reverend Paul shaking, at Lorenzo smiling, at Adrian waiting for her judgment, like it mattered more than the guns. She understood then. This was not about whether Adrian had darkness. He did. It was about whether darkness was all he had left. Maya stepped forward. Lorenzo's smile faltered. "You're right," she said to him. "I do understand serving. I understand being overlooked. I understand powerful people using hunger to control people with empty hands." She looked at Adrian. "And I understand that one good act does not erase a life of violence." Adrian's face went still. Then Maya turned back to Lorenzo. "But you are wrong about one thing." Lorenzo narrowed his eyes. Maya lifted her chin. "He was hungry when I fed him." "You're re-starving and still don't know what food is." Adrian moved on that sentence. So did his men. The lights went out. The warehouse exploded into chaos. Maya dropped low, crawling toward Sophie as shouting filled the dark. Gunfire cracked above, sharp but controlled, answered by the heavy thud of bodies hitting concrete. She reached the child and pulled at the rope around her wrists with shaking hands. "Sophie, look at me. Only me," the girl sobbed. "I'm scared. I know, baby. Me too. But we were going to move when I say." A hand grabbed Maya's hair from behind. She cried out as one of Lorenzo's men yanked her backward. Sophie screamed. Maya twisted and drove her elbow hard into his face. He cursed, loosening his grip, but another man caught her arm. Then the air shifted. Adrian appeared from the darkness like judgment. He did not shout. He did not rage. He simply removed the man from Maya with terrifying efficiency and put himself between her and every weapon in the room. A shot rang out. Adrian's body jerked. Maya screamed his name. He stayed standing. Blood spread across his shoulder. He turned his head toward her, eyes furious. Not at the wound, at her fear. "Run." "No." "Maya." "No." Lorenzo emerged near the far door with a gun aimed at Adrian. "You always had one weakness," Lorenzo called. "You think love makes men stupid." Adrian's gaze locked on him. "No," he said. "It makes them precise." A flash drive clattered across the floor near Lorenzo's feet. Lorenzo looked down, then up. Too late. Camille's voice came through every speaker in the warehouse, broadcast from Adrian's phone line to the federal agents already surrounding the building. "Lorenzo Moretti, the ledgers are live. Every account, every payoff, every murder contract, every property transfer." Red and blue lights flooded the broken windows. Lorenzo's face emptied. Adrian had not chosen between the evidence and Maya. He had chosen both, because Maya had forced him to believe there was a world where protection did not require surrendering the truth. Lorenzo raised the gun. Maya saw it before anyone else. She moved without thinking, shoving Sophie down and throwing herself toward Adrian. Adrian caught her and turned, taking her to the ground beneath him as the shot cracked through the air. Glass shattered behind them. Then Adrian's men surged forward. Lorenzo disappeared beneath a wave of black coats and federal jackets. Maya lay on cold concrete under Adrian's body, her heart pounding so hard she could barely hear. His face was inches from hers. Pain tightened his features. Blood darkened his suit. But his eyes were on her. Only her. "You moved toward a gun," he said, voice rough with disbelief. "So did you. I am used to it. That is not comforting." He stared at her. Then, unexpectedly, his forehead lowered until it rested against hers. A breath. One broken, human breath. "I thought I lost you," he whispered. The confession was barely audible. Maya closed her eyes. You don't own me, Adrian. I know. You can't lock me away because you're scared. I know. You can't buy my forgiveness. I know. She opened her eyes. He looked wrecked, powerful, bleeding, terrified, and completely hers in a way he did not yet know how to survive. But you can earn my trust, she whispered. His eyes darkened with something deeper than relief. Devotion, maybe, or the beginning of it. I will spend the rest of my life doing that. 3 months later, Mercy House reopened under a new name. Bennett House. Maya fought the name at first. Adrian ignored her, which almost caused their first real argument, until she discovered the legal documents and realized he had not named it after her. He had named it after her mother. The woman who had first volunteered in that old church kitchen and taught Maya that feeding people was not charity, it was dignity. Adrian had found the records himself, quietly, without telling her, without making it a gift he could use to pull her closer. The building was no longer falling apart. The pipes worked. The kitchen had 6 burners, 2 ovens, and a pantry stocked so deeply Maya cried the first time she opened it. There was a medical room, a family wing, a legal aid office, a children's library painted yellow because Sophie had chosen the color. The city called it philanthropy. The news called it reputation repair. Maya knew better. It was penance. It was love in the only language Adrian had known at first. Action. But he was learning others. Slowly. He no longer entered rooms assuming they belonged to him. At least not her rooms. He asked before sending security. He warned before making decisions. He stood outside the kitchen when she told him she needed space. Even though every instinct in him wanted to stay close enough to shield her shadow, he was still feared, still dangerous, still Adrian Moretti. Men still went silent when he entered. Enemies still vanished from the board, though Maya had learned not to ask every question when the answer would only stain her sleep. But with Sophie, he sat on tiny chairs and drank pretend tea with the patience of a man negotiating peace treaties. With the shelter residents, he listened more than he spoke. With Maya, he was careful, not soft, careful. And somehow, that meant more. On the night Bennett House reopened, snow fell over Detroit again. The dining room glowed with warm light. Families sat at long tables. Volunteers carried trays. Someone played old jazz from a speaker near the pantry. Sophie ran past in a yellow dress, laughing as 2 of Adrian's most terrifying guards pretended not to lose a game of tag. Maya stood in the kitchen, wearing a clean apron, stirring a massive pot of soup, chicken broth, garlic, onions, everything stretched from abundance this time, not scarcity. She felt him before she saw him. Adrian leaned in the kitchen doorway wearing a black coat over a dark suit, one hand in his pocket, his crowned lion tattoo visible near his collar. For a second, he looked exactly like the man who had walked in from the snow. Then he smiled faintly. Not for the room. For her. Maya lifted a bowl from the counter. The last one, she said. His eyes moved to it. Then to her. Is it mine? She walked toward him. The room seemed to soften around them. You tell me. Adrian took the bowl carefully, like it was something sacred, just as he had the first time, only now his hand did not shake. You fed me when I had nothing, he said. Maya looked up at him. You had a city. I had enemies. Buildings. Money. Fear. His voice lowered. Nothing. Her throat tightened. Adrian set the bowl down. Then he did what he always did now when the feeling was too large for him to command. He stopped, waited, let her choose the distance. Maya stepped into it. His hand rose slowly to her cheek. This time, she leaned into the touch. The relief in his eyes nearly broke her. I love you, he said. No performance. No possession. No demand. just truth. Maya closed her eyes for 1 second. She thought of the man in the black coat, the last bowl of soup, the guns, the smoke, the emerald dress, the warehouse floor, the way power had knelt and learned restraint. Then she opened her eyes. I know. Adrian's mouth curved, but pain flickered beneath it. Maya smiled. And I love you too. For a moment, the most feared man in Detroit looked like he had forgotten how to breathe. Then he bent his head and kissed her, gently, carefully, as if the world had finally given him something he did not want to conquer, only keep. The dining room erupted in cheers because apparently everyone had been watching. Maya laughed against his mouth, embarrassed and happy and overwhelmed. Adrian looked over her shoulder at the room full of people who had once been invisible to men like him, then back at her. What happens now? He asked. Maya picked up the bowl of soup and handed it to him. Now you eat. His eyes warmed. And after? She touched the lapel of his black coat. After, you help me serve. Adrian Moretti, Mafia Boss of Detroit, feared by criminals, politicians, and men who believed power made them untouchable, took the bowl from her hands. Then he followed Maya Bennett into the dining room, not as a king, not as a monster, not as a man hiding from the world, but as the man she had found hungry in the snow, the man who had learned that love was not ownership, that protection was not control, that devotion was not proved by how tightly he held her, but by how freely he let her stand beside him. Outside, snow covered the city in white. Inside Bennett House, the lights stayed on. And for the first time in Adrian Moretti's life, home did not look like marble, security gates, or a throne built from fear. It looked like a crowded shelter kitchen, a woman in an apron, a bowl of soup, and the only love powerful enough to make a dangerous man want to become worthy of being saved.